So, which Seinfeld episode was the worst? Welcome to Worst Episode Ever, the channel that ranks the worst episodes of some of your favorite TV shows.
When I get through with you, you'll be begging to go.
In this video, we're opening up the vault to uncover those episodes of Seinfeld that even diehard fans think were just so much fluff. So grab a box of Junior Mints and settle in as we rank the 5 worst episodes of Seinfeld. At number 5 on our list is an episode that's a real dog. In every sense of the word. In The Dog from Season 3, Jerry finds himself saddled with a dog named Farfel after a fellow airline passenger falls ill and asks him to take care of his pet. Meanwhile, George and Elaine struggle to find common ground without Jerry around, discovering that their friendship might not be as strong as they thought without their usual ringleader. So why does this episode leave fans barking mad? The biggest reason is the dog itself. Farfel's loud, incessant barking quickly becomes grating, but what really gets under viewers' skin is the fact that the barking isn't even real. It's performed by a human voice actor. As one fan commented,
"There was no excuse whatsoever for that barking. It was so obviously human. They couldn't have gotten some stock dog barking audio."
The fact that the dog wouldn't shut up led another fan to say,
I think the constant barking of the dog breaks and interrupts the usual pattern and rhythm of the comedy, and the episode suffers for it. We never can get comfortable in the story because we are just always getting distracted by the dog.
and despite all the chaos he causes, we never actually see the dog, which makes the whole plot feel oddly disconnected. As one Reddit commenter observed,
"It all played out like a cheap theater play. The dog was always in another room. The barking was as fake as it gets. Everyone had to react to it, but none could properly do it."
another source of irritation is Farfel's owner, Gavin. Sure, he's supposed to be an annoying character, but lots of fans think the actor did an awful job of portraying a drunk. A bad ripoff of Arthur is how one fan described it. His exaggerated behavior is more aggravating than amusing, making it hard to sympathize with his plight or care about Jerry's involvement. Another complaint about this episode is that Jerry, who's usually portrayed as selfish and self-centered, suddenly agrees to take care of a complete stranger's dog. This out-of-character moment throws the episode off balance, making it hard for viewers to buy into the premise. As for the B-plot, some viewers find the awkwardness between Elaine and George puzzling, especially since they had worked together in previous episodes like The Revenge without any issues. Their inability to find common ground outside of Jerry in this episode feels forced and inconsistent, leaving viewers scratching their heads. At number 4, we have an episode that one fan said feels like it belongs in a different universe. The very first episode of the series, the Seinfeld Chronicles, also known as Good Times, Bad Times, first aired on July 5, 1989. In this pilot episode, Jerry's life takes a turn when a woman he met on the road, Laura, calls to say she's coming to New York and needs a place to stay. Jerry and George spend most of the episode debating what her intentions might be. Meanwhile, Kramer drops in for some awkward interactions. So why do fans tend to skip this one? The episode feels slightly askew compared to what Seinfeld would later become. Instead of Monk's Cafe, Jerry and George are seen in a different coffee shop that lacks the charm of their usual hangout. Jerry's apartment also looks different and unkempt, giving off a vibe that's not quite right. Another glaring issue is the total absence of Elaine. Yes, the show's iconic female lead doesn't even make an appearance in this episode, leaving the cast feeling incomplete. Kramer does appear in the episode, but he's not called Kramer. He's called Kessler, and rather than the eccentric, lovable goofball we'd grow to adore, he's an unshaven recluse who's subdued and borderline creepy. His downbeat energy feels off, like someone hit the mute button on a character who's meant to be full volume. In fact, this entire pilot episode was so badly received by test audiences that it nearly killed off Seinfeld before it even aired. Those first viewers didn't like the characters at all. NBC executive Warren Littlefield said, "In the history of pilot reports, Seinfeld has got to be one of the worst of all time." Fortunately, some executives at the network had enough faith in Seinfeld to get it on the air in spite of the negative early reaction to that first episode. It's never a good sign when the series creator thinks an episode he wrote himself is too awful to be put on the air. In The Stranded, Jerry, George, and Elaine find themselves attending a dull party on Long Island, thanks to George's coworker Steve. As the night drags on, George leaves early, leaving Jerry and Elaine stranded at the party. What starts as a typical awkward social gathering quickly turns into a cringe fest as Jerry and Elaine struggle to endure the painfully annoying hosts and guests. Things take an even stranger turn when Steve, the host, later shows up uninvited and drunk at Jerry's apartment, and in a bizarre twist, hires a prostitute. So why do Seinfeld fans feel like they're the ones being stranded by this episode? There's the disjointed feel due to its uneven pacing. Some fans say the party scene, which is the main focus, drags on too long, making it uncomfortable and slow compared to the show's usual snappy rhythm. The humor in this episode is more cringe-inducing than clever, with several awkward and uncomfortable moments that don't land as well as the show's usual witty banter.
Really hate the couple who host the party. The wife is just a nag with no humor.
Other fans say that the party scene isn't as bad as what comes after. When the host of the party, played by Michael Chiklis, comes to Jerry's apartment, things really get strange.
I'd probably say The Stranded is right up there with The Dog is Worst. The premise isn't bad, but the first half is almost like being at the bad party yourself, and the second half just goes off the deep end with the prostitute storyline.
The guy is so creepy inviting a prostitute to the apartment of a guy he barely knows.
The Stranded was filmed during season 2, but Seinfeld creator Larry David was so disappointed in it that he wouldn't let it air. He changed his mind and let it air during season 3, most likely because season 3 was the first season to have a full 23-episode run. But that caused a continuity problem. George had been fired from his real estate job at the end of season 2, but in this episode, he still has that job. The first broadcast of this episode featured a video from Jerry explaining this discrepancy. Viewers don't need to wait for a ride to get out of this party, so lots of them decide to skip The Stranded. By the time the finale aired on May 14, 1998, it had been preceded by weeks of hype and hoopla, making the hour-long final episode, written by series co-creator Larry David himself, one of the most anticipated events in TV history. But did Seinfeld end up saving the worst for last? In the finale, the private jet Jerry and his friends are flying to Paris is forced to make an emergency landing in the small town of Latham, Massachusetts. As they wait for the plane to be repaired, they witness a mugging in progress and crack jokes at the expense of the obese crime victim while Kramer videotapes the whole incident. Soon, Jerry and company are arrested for violating the state's Good Samaritan law, which requires citizens to help others in distress. During the trial, the soup Nazi, George Steinbrenner, Babu Bhatt, and nearly a dozen other familiar faces take the stand to testify of the horrible things Jerry, Elaine, George, and Kramer have done in the course of their lives. The jury declares the defendants guilty, and the judge sentences them to a year in prison. So why do a lot of Seinfeld fans wish someone would lock up this episode and throw away the key? By having a parade of old characters rehash their past scenes, sometimes followed by video of those scenes, what was supposed to be the series' grand finale ended up as just a glorified clip show. And a lot of things about the finale made it feel like you weren't really watching a Seinfeld episode at all. By taking everyone out of New York, viewers are robbed of the familiar locales they're used to, such as Jerry's apartment or Monk's Cafe. Instead, viewers have to watch their favorite characters spend time in the awkward and uncomfortable settings of a courtroom and jail cell. Another big difference was the lack of multiple storylines typical of the show. As one fan put it,
The biggest sin of this finale is its linear and boring plotline. A huge part of what made Seinfeld so great was its ability to take multiple, seemingly unrelated storylines and somehow, at the final minute, mesh them all together in the perfect catastrophe punchline. From the moment the gang is arrested, nothing new develops. There is no climax. It's unforgivably bad.
Others complained that the trial witnesses took the attention off of the show's 4 stars.
The major problem with the finale, especially the second half hour, is its lack of focus on the main characters. The entire second part of the episode is the past one-timer, minor characters testifying against the gang in court. The 4 main characters barely speak at all except to make little comments between the testifying. They just sit there the whole time.
Ending a quirky sitcom about nothing, with the main characters doing hard jail time, felt like a real downer to a lot of viewers.
Bringing it all to an end with them being thrown in prison seemed weirdly inappropriate, and actually closes the show on a dark note as the camera slowly pans away from the quartet locked up behind bars together. Dark humor, I guess, but maybe a little too dark.
Next on our list is the most controversial Seinfeld episode ever aired, the Puerto Rican Day from season 9. Driving home from a Mets game, Jerry and the gang find themselves stuck in a horrible traffic jam caused by the annual Puerto Rican Day Parade in Manhattan. With traffic at a standstill, each of the characters eventually abandons the car. Elaine to find a faster way home, George to watch a movie, Kramer to find a bathroom, and Jerry to watch the conclusion of the Mets game on TV. When Kramer returns, he accidentally lights a Puerto Rican flag on fire with a sparkler and stomps on the flag to put it out. This infuriates the crowd, who angrily attack Jerry's car. So why do some Seinfeld fans decide to take a detour and avoid the Puerto Rican Day? When this episode first aired, several Puerto Rican advocacy groups expressed outrage at the scene in which Kramer burns and stomps on the flag. This led the president of NBC to issue an apology, and for several years, the Puerto Rican Day was not included in the Seinfeld syndication packages, making it one of the least seen episodes of the series. But a lot of viewers who weren't offended still think this episode is not so caliente. It seems to start out as a classic Seinfeld bottle episode, such as the Chinese restaurant or the parking garage, where all the action takes place in one location. But then they give up that premise, as each of the characters takes off on his own. Seinfeld writer David Mandel, whose real-life experience getting caught in New York traffic was the inspiration for this episode, said, "Leaving the car was, I think, a giant mistake." And a lot of fans think those separate plot lines, such as George being stalked by a laser pointer and Jerry's conflict with another driver, are forced and unfunny. About the scene in which Elaine suddenly kisses a man under the bleachers, one commenter on IMDb said,
"Making out with the stranger guy whom she'd accused of being a scaredy cat wuss was way beyond the pale. I can't believe she allowed her character to be so portrayed."
Others think the main characters, instead of being merely self-centered, are downright mean here. The rude way Elaine treats a cab driver and gossips about a pregnant woman, as well as Jerry calling a rival driver a jackass, show more viciousness than we're used to. Another complaint is that the extras cast in this episode, such as the driver of the maroon Golf, the people Elaine leads under the bleachers, and the women in the movie theater, are really bad actors. One Seinfeld fan sums it up with,
The ludicrous storylines, the extraordinarily clunky actors playing the extras, in conjunction with a terrible script, really made for a sad penultimate episode of one of the best shows on TV.
So, which Seinfeld episodes would make your list for worst ever?
Oh my God.
Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching Worst Episode Ever. Be sure to like and subscribe.